Welcome to ONA TV. ZWELIBANZI, MAZIBUKO. And today we are at the ranch show that is happening here at Johannesburg, Nasrec in Soweto. So we've got Uba Moses Pitso, who is the IEC Outreach and Communications Officer for the Gauteng province. And I just want us to focus on the 3 ballot papers, Baba. I think a lot of the time people don't understand what it means to have 3 ballot papers. So can you just in a brief summary, just explain what it will mean for someone who's voting to have, to come across 3 ballot papers? What should they anticipate and what should they do?
No, thank you, Zweli, and greetings to your viewers on your TV. This year, for the first time during national and provincial elections, voters are going to be given 3 ballot papers to vote. First ballot paper, which will be in blue, will be for the National Assembly. That ballot paper is contested only by political parties.
Okay.
Voters must only mark one party with an X on that ballot, the party that they choose for the National Assembly. The second ballot paper is going to be contested by both political parties and independent candidates.
Okay.
That too is what we call a regional ballot paper. It's a regional ballot paper. Essentially, it's for all provinces, their representation in the National Assembly. So we call it regional, even though it represents provinces in the National Assembly.
Okay.
Now, that too, because it's contested by both political parties and independent candidates, voters must only mark once. They must either choose an independent candidate or a political party.
So can I ask, in that second ballot, if let's say I'm a political candidate and I win, that means I'm going to parliament?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
The first ballot, the blue one. The second ballot, which is this one,
the orange
one, go to parliament.
Okay.
It's both of them are National Assembly ballots. Then the third ballot, it's a provincial legislature ballot.
Okay.
It will then be that pink one.
Okay.
So the pink one, you only vote for independent candidates and political parties to represent you in the provincial legislature. Now there too, you only mark your ballot once. Either you choose a political party or you choose an independent candidate.
Okay, and then I want us to go back to the first 2. So if I choose a certain political party in the first one, then I still choose it in the second one, which is the region. Does that count as 2 votes or does it count as 1 vote?
For the party?
Yes.
No, you will have voted for the party twice. For National Assembly, for political parties only, and for the regional seats. But voters don't necessarily have to vote the same way in all 3 ballot papers. They may choose differently according to their support in either the province. Maybe they may want in the province they want an independent candidate or a political party, or for the regions they want a political party or an independent candidate, or for national they want a particular political party. So they may decide to alter their vote. It's really up to them.
And since we are here at the ranch show, there's a lot happening. What are some of the things that you've seen from people who are around? What are some of the questions that you guys are receiving leading up to the elections?
Well, the interest essentially is what you're asking about. How are people going to vote in these elections with the 3 ballot papers? Because it will be the first time for national and provincial elections that people are going to get 3 ballot papers. So that's essentially what we want to know. How does this work? What I've just explained. But over and above, people would want to know if they are not at their voting station where they are registered, can they be able to vote? Now we have to explain to them that in these elections, you will not be able to vote unless you are registered at the voting station. If you are not registered at that voting station, you've got up until the 17th of May to apply to the IEC and tell the IEC at which station you want to vote that is not yours. And then we'll send your ballot papers to that voting station. However, should it happen on election day that you still are unable to go to that voting station that you have told us as the IC that you will be at, for instance, you are in Mamelodi, you live in Mamelodi, and on election day you are in Soweto. If it happens on election day you are not at Soweto, your name will still be in Mamelodi. You can still go back to your ordinary original voting station and vote there. However, if you are outside of the province, you still have got to inform us that I'm from KZN, I'll be in Joburg on the 29th of May, I'd like to vote in Joburg. And then once we have approved your application to vote in Joburg, where again you must tell us at which voting station, so that you are able to send your ballot papers to that voting station, and then you are able to vote at that voting station. If should it happen on the 29th that you are still at home, you haven't gone to Joburg or anywhere else where you told us that you will be at, your name will still be at your voting station where you're ordinarily resident, so you don't have to stress. Either you tell us where you want to vote, but if you're unable to go there, you can still go back to your voting station and vote there.
And thank you so much, sir, for your time. In closing, what advice would you have for the public? Because we all know this is a very important election for this country. For me, for some, it's a life-changing election, but what would be your word of advice, especially to the youth?
Just two things. Firstly, that those that are not able to vote on election day because maybe they're infirmed, they're at home, or they'd like to vote on special voting days, they've got up until they've got between the 15th of April and the 3rd of May to apply for special votes.
Okay.
So for special votes, we'll then be able to visit them if they want us to visit them at their homes, or for instance, if they're in hospital, we'll visit them there to help them vote. Alternatively, on the 28th and the 27th and 28th, which is 2 days before the elections, they can still go to the voting station if they had applied for a special vote to go and vote at the voting station where they are registered, or the voting station where they are told the IC they will be voting at that voting station. They can vote there on the 27th and the 28th. Now, the question that you ask is very important, particularly for the youth. If you don't participate in your elections, we run the risk of having a government that is not representative of the majority of South Africans. Now, if we progressively move in that direction where we don't have a government that is not representing us, it means progressively we will not be engaging with that government if we've got issues.
Yes.
Hence, you will see in service delivery protests, the issues that people are raising in service delivery protests are issues that they could raise with their municipal councils.
Yes.
If they had voted and they know who to speak to.
Yes.
The fact that they had not voted and they don't know who to speak to, then they start engaging in the way that they engage with their democracy.
Yes.
Sometimes these service delivery protests are violent. Now, progressively, it means the country becomes ungovernable.
Yes.
You see people coming here from other countries. The only reason they are here and the only reason they are asking South Africa to assist them with is just as South Africa assist us with having the right to vote in our countries. They had that right years back in the 60s and 70s when they got their independence. They thought voting is a game.
Yes.
And they did not vote. And progressively, their governments became governments that are representative of them. And progressively, they engaged with those governments violently. Hence today, those countries are ungovernable, simply because they did not exercise a simple thing, a mark on a ballot paper one day in your life.
Sure. I'd love to thank you so much, sir, for your time. I really love the fact that you just touched on a very important aspect of how it affects us as a continent, because right now that is the struggle that we are facing. Countries are having more coups, they are becoming more ungovernable due to the fact that they underestimated this important right in our society. But thank you so much for your time. That was Ubaba Moses Pito, who is the IEC Outreach and Communications Officer in the Gauteng province. He just explained to us the processes that are going to be undertaken as you vote with 3 ballot papers. So just explain to us what is happening today, why, what are sort of the questions that abantu babuza namhlanje.
Okay. we can start here. We know that we've had so many drownings, especially on our lakes and rivers around the city. This is why we had especially bought the boat, just to educate people and to say that you can't be in that territory because we have a lot of drowning. There's baptisms with churches where we want them to be safe as well, especially around this time of the year. But we've had incidents where we've had to respond and we've seen people die. This is throughout the year. It's not even seasonal anymore. But most of the people that are coming in also want to test our fire kit. We have kids down there who are wearing our fire kit. We're also encouraging kids that this is a career of choice. You can come and be a firefighter. And it's not only about fire and rescue. There are other departments. We also have disaster management with us as well. When there's incidents, they go out and they'll be assisting the people that are displaced, and they focus on the disasters that we might have as a city and give us the solutions on how to work with such. We've also displaced the equipment that we utilize. They'll also want to know. People know the jaws of life, but they've never seen it.
Yes.
That would be the jaws of life that everyone is talking about.
Why is it called the jaws of life?
It's the jaws of life because it helps us to extricate places where ordinary people can't. I mean, if you're stuck in a car, you can be able, it's the jaws, it's the how it holds and opens that would assist us to open. If it's cars, even if it's you are in a house and we can't access, but we'll be able to assist and open whatever.
And then, in terms of the disaster management, what can you tell us as to, some of the most frequent disasters that occur in our country? What gives you a challenge in terms of disasters? Which disaster are you guys always on the lookout for? Because which, as you were saying, some things are seasonal. So which disaster would you guys say you look out for?
I mean, we have flooding. Flooding becomes a disaster. We've seen other provinces that have had serious flooding incidents, and where you can't find people, and would find our user would be able to go out and try to find those people. Flooding would be one disaster. We might have fires that might spread, felt fires that might spread, which can cause a disaster. So there are a number of disasters that we work with. But flooding in Gauteng as well seems to be our major crisis. But we also have shack fires where they go out and help the displaced families. If families are displaced, like earlier this morning in the CBD, we had 60 shacks on fire. They'll be the ones that would go out and make sure that those people have temporary accommodation, work with other NGOs and make sure that they have food for the 3 times a day, and they have blankets and clothing.
And for anyone who would maybe have an interest in a career in these types of departments, what advice would you have? Firefighter.
Indeed, you have to, when you want to become a firefighter, you have to finish your matric. Maths and science is quite important because you'd have to understand the things that you'd have to do. Then you'd have to go to tertiary. There's a diploma, national diploma in fire technology that you can do. Or there's also disaster management that you could go into as well. But we're not even going through one department. There's fire safety, proactive services, the ones that would go out to make sure that everyone that has a plan, it complies with the city's bylaws. So when you have a plan, would want to make sure, like in this case, the doors are open in terms of any emergencies, and you have the fire equipment necessary. You can see that everywhere. You'd see that there are those small fire hydrants. Yes, and would also make sure that the hydrants around are working and they are high on temperature.
I'd love to thank you so much for your time. But before we go, may you please introduce yourself to the audience, tell them what do you do and where they can, if they have an inquiry of some sort, where can they find you?
My name is Nana Khatebe-Khiba, spokesperson for the City of Johannesburg Emergency Services. We have 30 fire stations around the city of Joburg. This is in Soweto, Alexandra, Midrand, Diepsloot, and the Joburg CBD. So we cover all those areas. In case of any emergency, please call us on 10177 or 011 359 5911. We are there for you. We're going to assist if in case of any emergency 247.
Thank you so much, Ma, for your time. Welcome back to ONA TV. Igama lami ZWELIBANZI, MAZIBUKO. And right now I have the spokesperson for the JMPD, Mr. Kolani Fihla, who will just explain to us about how is the day going, how do you feel about today, and what are the questions that are most frequently asked by people who come to the store.
What I can say is we have had a great turnout for the past days since Racial has started. I think people are interested to find out what the Johannesburg Metropolitan Police Department has to offer. Got various services when it comes to our speed section, so people are interested in how the speed cameras work and how they actually get caught by the speed cameras. But we've also got a licensing department where people can renew their licenses, they can renew their driving licenses as well. But we've got community outreach unit. We educate and give information to members of public on how to stay safe, but also what the department has to offer as well. But all in all, we feel that the RAN show has been a great experience. Firstly, for us, for people to change the perception, because the perception of police is that they are corrupt, but with us showing these services, it brings back a different perception, knowing that we are there to serve the people.
Yeah, I love the fact that you said you want to change the perception, because when I look around and I see all these governmental institutions, it's very nice because now I get to be in a space where whatever question I have, they can answer it right on the spot. So how important do you think it is for maybe the community to fully understand what the public servants are there to do?
I think it is really important because most of our lives are governed by what public servants have to do. We are governed by laws and acts within the country and the city. And as public servants, we need to make sure that these are fulfilled. But at the same time, for us to fulfill these, it involves the community. So it has to go both ways, with us fulfilling, but also them knowing what we need to do and how we need to serve them as well. And at the end of the day, also not thinking that government will supply all these things, but they can also come up with initiatives where the government can support and then make sure that the country grows further.
And looking at outside, obviously you guys are controlling the traffic. Any updates? Has there been any incidences so far ever since the RAN show started? What can you tell us about that?
Around the RAN show vicinity, there hasn't been any incidents that have been reported. Fortunately, we do have a traffic management plan that has been put in place. So fortunately, traffic has been free-flowing. With all these people coming to the RAN show, there hasn't been any incidents of heavy traffic congestion as well. But throughout the Easter season, we know that our biggest concern is road safety, with people going to various areas around the country. And unfortunately, we have had some fatal accidents that have been reported within the city of Johannesburg, and most of those being pedestrians. So it is a great concern for that. So our message is also for pedestrians to keep safe. Don't drink and then walk on the road, because you will be disorientated and something fatal might happen. But also for motorists as well, to keep safe during the Easter period.
I'd love to thank you so much for your time, man. All the best with the community outreach programs, and I'm also loving the other initiatives. So that was Kolani Fihla, who is the spokesperson for the JMPD, just telling us how the JMPD has been feeling and has been doing throughout this day of the RAN show. Igama lami ZWELIBANZI, MAZIBUKO, and this is ONA TV.